Hey guys, welcome to this week's Simply Soccer podcast. Sorry for not having any videos out the last couple of days. I've actually got caught up in doing a lot of my planning for 2018 and a lot of my kind of goal setting and things of that nature for 2018. And I kind of lost track of time on both days as I got into that. I got really deep into that, so that's why I don't have a video out yesterday or the day before, but we should be back on a regular schedule coming soon. I just got to organize everything going into the new year. So that's why I didn't have anything out, but we are trying to stick to a video a day, but sometimes, it may not work out. Something may come up as it did here, but for the main part, or for the most part, I should say, we're going to be trying to stick to a video a day, and I honestly really need to get back in the habit of creating videos way ahead of time so this doesn't happen. Something I've fallen out of. I usually make the videos. It used to be I would make most of the week's videos earlier in the week, so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and by that point I would have most of the videos done, and that way, it freed me up on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to do other type of work or something of that nature. So something I need to do. So announcements. I don't really have any for, this week. I hope you're all enjoying your holidays. Happy New Year and all that, even though we're not at the New Year. But we're getting to the New Year, aren't we? We're so close to 2018. I mean, where has the time gone? But it's kind of what I want to talk about in this podcast. Now, I don't have much of a list of things I'm going to talk about. This is going to be a very off-the-cuff type episode, which if you've been listening to these for a while, you're more than used to by this point, because half of the ones I do on here are off the cuff, just kind of just really in the moment type podcasts, which I kind of enjoy to a certain extent, although I do enjoy the structure of having it planned out. But what I want to go over in this podcast is kind of setting up for 2018, setting goals, things that have helped me also during 2017 that I would encourage you to do going into 2018, because 2017 was a pretty cool year for me in the sense that it was a really huge learning year. I completed a lot of courses, read a lot of books, did a lot of self-growth, self-improvement type stuff, grew my channel, played a lot of football, all these things. And I kind of want to give you some suggestions that may help you moving forward in 2018, things that I found very helpful. So I'll be providing you links down below to books I think are really great and ones that I believe, everyone should read or are just going to be so helpful to you. I might be listing some programs down there if I get to go over some of those, some of the things that helped me with football, some of the things that helped me in other areas of my life. And when it comes down to it, guys, I mean, everything seeps into everything, meaning, we're not just going to talk about football because, things going on in other areas of your life are ultimately going to affect football, soccer, the way you play. Everything affects everything. Your health affects your finances. Your finances affects your health, your spirituality, your social life, whatever it is. It all really ties in together in my eyes. So, some of the things I suggest may not seem like they're related to football, but in the end, everything is kind of related to each other in your life. If you have something that's not balanced in one area of your life, or, there's something muddying up the waters in one part of your life, it's eventually going to affect you in an area that's going just fine or you're thriving in. There's a person I follow called Kyle Cease who said, I don't think he said this, but he was quoting someone who said it. So I'm going to quote someone who's quoting someone else. But he said, if you piss in one part of the pool, you piss in all of the pool. And what he's saying is, if one area of your life is just crap, it's shit, it's just not going well, the rest of your life will be affected by it. And I just love that analogy of the peeing in the pool part, because, I don't know, it's just such a vivid image to me. If you pee in one part of the pool, you ultimately pee in all of the pool. You've peed in the whole pool, right? So if one area of your life you haven't dealt with or you haven't improved, like if your health, for example, I mean, that's the big one people bring up, is health is wealth. If you have bad health, you don't have anything. We can look so many examples of people who, for example, chased money and only money. There's nothing wrong with being financially abundant and financially free, financially rich, or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. However, chasing that above all else will bring harm, usually to the person and others. And we can see countless examples of that. And this is kind of tying into this point of they only try to thrive in one area, and in this case, their health went downhill, and then they get to the point where they're so sick that they can't even enjoy the wealth that they've accumulated, or they're so stressed that it's not even worth the payoff, or whatever it is. So that's why you want balance in all areas. Your health is going to be affected if your wealth isn't great either. If you can't afford to eat well, that's not a good thing for your health. But the point is, a lot of things I'm going to be going over are not just going to be football related. I will be going over football things. Obviously, I'll go over kind of some of the most important lessons I've learned. They're probably, a lot of them are going to be things you may have heard, but throughout this whole year have been things that have come up time and time again. And I've recognized that usually the simplest of advice, the simplest of things really deliver the most impact if you actually follow through with them. So, all right, let's get into this. That's a good place to start, I suppose. We're 5 minutes in. We've already kind of gone on a flow there. So let's talk about it. So let's talk, I guess, first about what I've learned during this last year, because then you can take what I say here and apply it to however you're planning out 2018, because that's what you should be in the process of doing right now, is really planning out your 2018. And I'm not talking about making New Year's resolutions on New Year's Eve. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about making concrete, really vivid, crystal clear goals, or having crystal clear intentions moving into 2018, because you can just say something like, oh, what's your New Year's resolution? I'm going to go to the gym for the rest of the year. That never works. There's no emotion attached to it. There's no accountability. There's nothing really there. There's a reason, there's that famous saying that most people, I think Tony Robbins says, the sad fact of the matter is people will make New Year's resolutions, but within 2 or 3 weeks in January of the new year, they've stopped doing them. Or, there's always that fitness thing that the gym will be filled from January 1st to January 7th, but the rest of the year it's like empty. And it's just the regulars that are back, the people who are actually committed to getting in shape. So screw New Year's resolutions. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about making and writing down real goals, real things you're trying to achieve, and actually creating real action plans towards achieving those goals, because again, it's your life. It's if you're not willing to plan it out or set some intention, it's gonna take you where it takes you, and it's gonna be pretty random. It's gonna be pretty blind. I'm not talking about in a good way, like go with the flow. I'm talking in a, it's just nothing that you want is really gonna get accomplished unless you take your attention and put it in that direction. Okay, so some of the things over 2017, I'm going to give you some of the things I guess I learned. One of the biggest things I learned over this year, and one of the things that has been one of the most beneficial things for me over this year, is the idea of investing in myself, in yourself. Before 2017, I never really committed or allocated too much money or time to doing courses, to buying books and actually sitting down and reading those books, or doing things in general that were ultimately going to improve me and help me grow, either in the long term or short term. A lot of people, now that I've gone through a year essentially of having done this, and I was doing it in small amounts before. I was investing in myself, certain courses and everything. But I had kind of like, if this course doesn't work, I'm never doing it again. Like I had a very victim mentality in the sense of, people were trying to scam me, all this crap. And what I found is, I think there's only one course I've bought out of so many courses where I thought the material wasn't valuable or the person was just trying to get a quick buck. I'd say 99% of courses I've bought, online courses or books or anything, have all been beneficial and valuable and more than worth it. There's never been an investment in a course, a product, or something that I've invested in that has not been worth it, especially when I actually put the work in to follow through on it. So that was one of the bigger lessons I took away from this year, is ultimately, regardless of where you are currently right now, the amount you invest in yourself, the amount of time you dedicate towards growing and becoming better in all areas of life, the better off you'll be. the less you invest, and we're not just talking money here, we're talking time, and in fact, your investment of time will probably be more valuable than what you invest your money in. Now, they're both important, and they tie into each other. For example, you can invest your money in like a $300 course that if you follow it could change your life, or you could invest that in a gaming system. Now, which would be the more valuable way of investing your money? It's pretty obvious, right? But there's also something that the time is tied into that as well, because if you invested, say, $300 into a course, that could, any amount, but I'm talking, I've bought courses that have been $300 or $400 before, and it's been more than worth it, by the way. But let's compare it to something that's a similar price, like a gaming system, like a Nintendo Switch, we'll say, and just playing Breath of the Wild all day, which would be great and fun, but I wouldn't get much done. But let's say, if I buy the course, not only am I investing my money in the course, but because I've invested my money in the course, I want to do the course. I've made a commitment of money, and it makes it much more likely I'm going to follow through with the course, right? So not only am I investing my money, but I'm investing my time, because a lot of my time is going to be spent in this course, which is, if it's a good course, which it will usually be at that price, I'm investing that time into growing, to learning things that are going to be valuable to me moving forward, things that are going to help me in the future, things that will lead to other things I can't even see right now, but will ultimately lead to good things. So not only have I invested my money wisely, I've invested my time. Now, if you buy Nintendo Switch instead, not only have I invested my money in something that really doesn't benefit me at all, and I'm not kicking video games or anything here, I'm just saying in comparison, right? I mean, if you play video games, there's nothing wrong with that. I'll sit down and play them every now and then. There's nothing wrong with relaxing and all that, but there's, opportunity cost here. But let's say I bought that instead of buying the course. Not only have I now invested my money in something that really is not going to help me in any way grow, except maybe it'll help me relax at some point, but usually it'll probably turn into an addiction. Not only have I done that, but I'm also going to be investing my time into that a lot too. And that time that I'm investing into playing that system and that game is time I could have been investing elsewhere into growing myself, into becoming a better person and all this stuff. So don't just think about investing into something, just your money. It's your investment of time. For example, you could be at home watching TV, or you could be at the gym working out. What's a better investment of your time? What is a better way to invest in yourself? You could be, eating junk food, or you could take the time to prepare a very healthy meal. It does take a little more investment in your time, but it's investing in yourself. It's valuable investment of time. So when you're talking about investing in yourself, don't just think about it as money, but think about it as your time as well. You get to invest a certain amount of time each day into yourself, or potentially into yourself. Take advantage of that. And again, there's balance here. You have to rest as well. You have to do things, that, you can't be grinding and hustling 24/7. You got to have that balance. Because you will burn out. I'm not saying that means you're being lazy, but you will absolutely burn out, and that doesn't help you. But, to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, am I investing enough time into myself? And, for me, investing time into growing can be anything that really expands you or grows you as a person. So for me, meditation is investing your time in yourself. Reading and studying books and the ideas within those books is an investment in yourself. Journaling, anything that's growth oriented. When I'm taking a course, that's investing in myself. When I'm working out, that is time I'm using to invest in myself, into the health and the strength of my body. When I'm eating healthy, right? So you can kind of differentiate activities you do into, am I investing in myself and using my time wisely to invest in myself right now, or am I investing time into something that doesn't expand me and may even hurt me, like junk food, like playing, watching TV for too long, which in my eyes is kind of mindless. And again, there's nothing wrong with watching TV every now and then. I'll watch Netflix every now and then. Nothing wrong with that, but in moderation, and usually after you've already invested your time into yourself. So that was one of the most important things I probably learned this year is to invest in myself, both my time and my money. And one of the rules I gave myself this year is I will never not buy a book because of the price. And I forget where I heard this idea, but it was someone who, you know, there's so many famous people, so many successful people who have attributed a lot of their success and what they've learned to a daily reading habit. And this is something I've gotten into as well. And I've read probably more books this year. I haven't actually counted it up, but I've read more books this year than any other year of my life. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it's also been one of the years I've grown the most in all of my life. You know, a lot of, again, investing my time into reading, investing my money into reading. So that's another thing to take away is, you know, have a daily reading habit, you know, and it just does not need to be crazy. Again, start off small, maybe 10 minutes. You know, some days I only read 10 minutes. Some days I'll be really into a book and the ideas will just be so, you know, just engrossing and I'll just be really into it and I'll read for hours. But that's not most days. You know, I'll make sure I always at least sit down at some point for 10 to 30 minutes and read. That's an important habit I've taken away. Now, of course, you can't just read. You have to take action. Like if you read books like I do that are mainly self-growth oriented books, you know, it's not about just reading the ideas from that book. It's about actually applying it to your life. But the more you're exposed to these ideas, the more likely it is you'll take the action. So that's one thing I've definitely learned over this last year is invest in yourself and reading. read. You know, learn. Be a learner. And actually, it's the next thing I would say for you is this last year is be a learner. Always be learning. But there's an interesting thing I've also learned about this is be a very selective learner. And what I mean by this is there is so much information out there. I mean, so much, too much, you know? There's way so much information that you want to pick. Like, for example, when you're reading certain books, only pick the best books. Don't just go into a bookstore and be like, this looks okay, and pick that up. Do your research on these things. You know, if I'm looking at my bookshelf right now, I have books like Relentless, A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. I have Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth. Siddhartha, I hope I screwed this up, Kyle Cease, The Magic of Thinking Big. All of these books are either from people who I trust with the information, and because of that, and the reason for that is because I've been studying these people for a while, or they're well-renowned books. These are books that have helped many people before me and have, you know, kind of a reputation of being good. For example, when I buy a Tim Ferriss book, I know I'm getting a book from a guy who works hard, who puts a lot of effort into his books, you know, things of this nature, right? So don't just buy and read any old thing. Be very selective. One, again, because opportunity cost, you know, if you're reading one thing, you're not reading something else. Meaning, if you're reading a crappy thing and it's not that helpful, you're missing out on reading a good book, a book that's actually going to help you. So be selective learning, right? You know, because ultimately anything that you put your attention on, you're going to subconsciously take information from that. It's one of the reasons why over this last year as well, I've watched so little TV. Really the only time I watch TV is when there's a match on. So if there's a Premier League match on or a Champions League match on or El Clasico's on, then I'll watch some TV. But outside of that, rarely. I mean, I don't even have cable where I am right now. I don't. I couldn't even flip on a channel right now. And the reason for that is because, you know, if you're watching that, you're taking in that information, whether you like it or not. And that is impacting your subconscious, again, whether you like it or not. You have to take control of what you expose yourself to because you will subconsciously take in information. And what I mean by that is it's going on in the background. So you don't even realize that it's making an impression on you. So that's what I'm saying about selective learning. Make sure you're selectively picking things and try new things, but always have kind of an attitude of scrutiny when you're looking at certain information, right? You know, compare it. Don't automatically believe something is what I say and what I mean, right? You know, because there is so much information out there. And there's some information, for example, in a book like Relentless that has been accumulated through decades of Tim Grover basically working with some of the best athletes in the world. I trust that information. It's been proven to work. He's done it on the best athletes in the world, the Michael Jordans, mainly basketball players, Michael Jordans, players of that caliber, the best. So that's very valuable information to me, right? And it supersedes, or other books suddenly become subservient to that book in my eyes because of how valuable that information is. So it's selective. So I'm like, these books are good, but this book is great. Therefore, I'm going to focus on the information in this book. So selective learning. Here's another thing about learning. When you find something, when you strike gold and you find something that is such good information that you know that if like you could just expose yourself to this over and over again, it can change your life. Do exactly that. Expose yourself over and over again to whatever the information is. You know, repetition does not just work for working out and athletics, it also works for information. The more you expose yourself to certain information, the more it will be imprinted in your mind, in your subconscious, like I said, and the more you'll remember it. You know, there are talks I'll listen to over and over and over again so that the information is solidified in my head. Right? Because when you look at something the first time, you're only taking a certain amount of that information away. You're not remembering that whole thing. You know, you might get motivated in the moment and be like, this information is great, but then 24 hours later, not even, like 5 minutes later, you're on to something new. That's one of the issues with so much information. You don't get time to digest the information you just took in. So another good thing is you can also journal about what you're reading. Something I'm doing right now is I'm taking all the books that I think are most valuable and I'm making book summaries of them, 1 page to 2 page. So now I'm writing out the most important, valuable information from these books. Because I'm writing it out, it makes it more likely I'll remember it. And then if I ever forget something and I need inspiration or I need an idea, I flip through those 1 page summaries and, oh, there it is. I forgot about that, but that's valuable information. So selective learning, guys. Now, there is a balance. Of course, you always want to be learning new things as well, but selective learning, when you find things that work, when you find the things that are incredibly valuable, don't start deviating so far away from those things that you're not looking at them anymore. Like when you find something that motivates you instantly, you know, listen to that every day. When you find something that is an idea you feel so powerful about and you think can alter your life and change it for the better, listen to that every day. Read that every day. You know, there are books I've read multiple times because I want to be exposed to the ideas. I want to get it to the point where I've memorized a lot of the ideas so that they're imprinted in my mind, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. That's one of the things that I really started to focus on towards the tail end of 2017 to this point. So that's something I took away as well. Other things that I learned during 2017 that were very valuable. I mean, this is one I harp on about all the time, but consistency. You know, I already knew about consistency and momentum, but it became a lot more evident how important these very simple ideas are to your growth. And I heard it, I think because I was doing a lot more reading this year and a lot more research and a lot more growth-oriented things, I started hearing more and more people talk about consistency, more and more people talk about repetition and momentum. And these ideas kept coming up over and over again from different successful people. And when success leaves clues, you know? And most successful things in one area can be applied to other areas. You know, like when you look at a professional athlete and you look at his rituals, and then you look at a top CEO of a company and you look at his, you'll see that a lot of them are similar. Obviously, there'll be differences and there'll be certain variables that are a lot different based on their profession, but you'll see maybe they have a ritual to rise up early in the morning. They may do a meditation practice. I guarantee you the CEO has some kind of workout routine as well. Like you'll see a lot of similarities. Success leaves clues. There's a blueprint for this that you can follow. And I found like so many successful people talk about consistency, repetition. They don't say momentum, but momentum comes out of those things. So I kind of became a lot more aware of just the importance of consistency. I learned from Simon Sinek, for example, that consistency is more important than intensity at first. And I think this is one of the big things that many players fall in the trap of, is they think they have to go out having not done too much in the past and just go to the gym for hours upon end, and they have to do that all the time. That's not how it works. You have to consistently make your way up there, incrementally get yourself to that point. If you've never worked out, for example, you can't go to the gym and just, you know, do the same thing that someone who is there, who's been going to the gym forever, is doing. You have to work your way up there. But that consistency builds up momentum, and then eventually you get to the point where you can do things much more intensely than you once could before. But you've incrementally got yourself up to that point. So I learned, you know, again, kind of reinforced the idea of how important consistency is. Another idea to take away. Now, there's a lot of other things I learned in 2017 that I could go over, and I'm trying to think of the most important ones, but I want to go over goal setting and things too to give you a certain idea. And I may make another video going over some of these things. But first, I want to give you some courses and programs I did this year, and I'll just give you a few that I think are very valuable. First one is a football-related one, which is Train Effective. I think, you know, it's a great platform. If you, again, it's a little more, it's probably the best one I've seen. Because it's video, it's really well organized, it's really clever in the way you can schedule things and you get points and all this other stuff. So at the very least, check it out. You can actually get a discount from me if you use the link down in the description. I think I have a coupon code, so check the description if you want to check that out. You know, this is a program, if you can invest the time and money into, it will give you results. So you have that. You can also check out my program, Ultimate Soccer Skills, which is down there as well, which would be another good investment if that's something you're looking for. So both of those will be down there. So that was the main one from a completely purely football standpoint. Other ones that I would recommend is My Best Journal from Clark Cagley, which talks about journaling, but does it in such a creative and great way. And I think journaling is a great way to track your growth, set goals. You know, I'm putting book notes in there, so my summaries of books, and just having this one big journal filled with everything you need, so that you don't have, I really believe, like, if you have too many open-ended loops and you have too many things disorganized and your room's a chaos, and this is like my room sometimes, where I have all these notes from this lesson and that lesson, blah, 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 and he teaches you how to put it all in one, what sections to have, all this stuff. This is something that I bought recently, and I'm loving it so far, so I will put that down below as well. I think that's been an incredibly helpful course so far, and one I'm actually using to set my goals for 2018. So I'll put that down there as well. I'm trying to think of other courses. I do have some other courses I could recommend to you, but they're $300-400. So if you want me to recommend one of those courses, actually just comment and I'll send you it. But every other course I think I bought was $300-400 about, and I know a lot of you aren't in a position where you can afford that. So if you are in a position where you can afford that and you are interested in something like that, just comment down below and I'll send you an email or something with that. But I don't want to get too much into it right here because I know for the vast majority of you are not going to be able to afford that. So I'll leave you with Train Effective, the Ultimate Soccer Skills, and the journaling one because I think those are some great places to start. But yeah, and I'm sure I'll be going over more of what I learned in 2017. There's a ton of things I could go over, but I already noticed I'm 26 minutes into this podcast and I don't want it to go on forever. So let's talk about goal setting. And again, we're going to touch on this briefly. And what I recommend you do is definitely look up some videos on goal setting. Look up, you know, Tony Robbins has some good material on this. Robin Sharma is another guy you can look up who goes over goal setting, especially for the year, really well. So those are two people you can look up. And there's a bunch of other people. I think Brendan Bouchard is another guy you can look at who's really good at this. But I'll touch upon it briefly about how you should be setting up. So first and foremost, like I said earlier, is you need to be setting some type of goal. Like, don't do the whole New Year's resolution last minute bullshit because you won't commit to that. We all know that most people, I would say 98% of people who make those last minute New Year's resolutions do not follow through on them. You know, they do it because they think they should do it and because it's like some kind of weird tradition we have. But I don't think anyone ever takes it seriously. You know, we all get to this point at the end of the year and I think people look back and go, what the hell did I do this year? Nothing. I'll set a New Year's resolution and then the cycle continues, right? So don't do that. Be very deliberate about your goal setting. Again, you can use the strategies from the people I recommended, Tony Robbins, Robin Sharma, Brendan Bouchard. They'll give you some strategies. But let me go over how I did it last year, and you know, some of the things that worked and some of the things I'll be taking a look at. So I think at the end of every year, you need to ask yourself some questions. And this is something Tony Robbins kind of gets into. He talks about the answers and the goals you set will be determined, or how good they are will be determined by how good the questions are you ask yourself. So one thing I'm going to be doing is I have a book called Think and Grow Rich. And towards the back of the book, they have a list of questions you can ask yourself at the end of a year to go over how your year went and what you can do to improve upon it going into the next year. So I don't have that in front of me, but if you look up like Think and Grow Rich year questions or something, I'm sure it'll pop up. but I'll be doing that. But you have to ask yourself certain questions and really get deep with it. Like, you know, you can be broad and you can be very specific. So you can be per area, like, did I accomplish what I wanted to accomplish with my health goals this year, my financial goals this year, my soccer related goals, blah, 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 and go even deeper than that. You know, you want to ask yourself certain questions and reflect upon the year and be brutally honest with yourself. You know, again, this is not something you have to show anyone. This is not something where you need to, you know, make it seem like one thing's one way when it isn't. This is something that's only going to benefit you if you're honest. Sorry, like some frog in my throat or something. So you want to be honest with whatever questions you do end up asking yourself. And again, I would definitely look up the people I suggested to get those questions. And, you know, I may share them with you once I have Think and Grow Rich in front of me. I'll share it on a post or something, some of the questions you can ask. But you want to essentially reflect on the year and go over, you know, what went well, what should you take with you into 2018 and continue to do, what didn't work well and you should probably think about dropping, what you should improve, what new habits, you know, would help you. You know, you're basically taking a look at your life in the last year and going over what worked, what didn't, what can work, what won't work, what's more beneficial than this thing or that thing. And you're trying to like fine tune it. But going back to goals, I think it's really important to have goals in 2000 or in any year, but going into any year. And I can tell you one of the goals and one of the things I learned over 2017 is to set big goals. One of my favorite quotes is from Will Smith, and it's simply this, and he goes, "Why would I be realistic? What's the point of being realistic?" And it's a very powerful statement. And what he's essentially saying is, you know, you have to be unrealistic because being realistic is just based on other people's expectations, on what they've told you you can or cannot accomplish. So when I say to someone, I'm going to have a certain, like a huge number of subscribers, or I'm going to make millions of dollars or something, to them that seems ridiculous because of the expectations that they have, or maybe the expectations of society or the people generally around you. Like if you went to a millionaire and said, I'm going to make millions, he'd probably be like, yeah, okay, yeah, all right. Because he's done it. He knows it's possible. So don't limit yourself. Do not limit your goals. I made a goal in 2017 to hit 100,000 subscribers. Now I'm not going to hit it, but I want to tell you kind of the magic of setting a big goal. By the end of this year, in a few days, I might be close to 90,000. At the beginning of 2017, I was looking at how many subscribers should I aim for in 2017 before we hit 2018, and my first answer was 20,000. I was at about 10,000 at the beginning of 2017. And I said, I'll hit 20,000. I'll go for 20,000. And I was learning all this stuff about setting high goals. And I went, why not just do this? Why not go for 100,000? And at first my mind came in and said, ooh, there's no way you could do that. You couldn't even get close, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, why not go for it? And the reason it's more important to set that bigger goal is because when you start setting a bigger goal, you have to ask yourself different questions. You have to now approach the goal a lot differently. Because if I set a 20,000 subscriber goal, I would have had to have done the bare minimum to probably hit it, right? But because I set a 100,000 subscriber goal, I now had to do different things. I had to grow. I had to challenge myself. I had to expand as a person in order to get close to it. And I can tell you what, if I set the 20,000 person goal, I'd probably be sitting at around 20 to 30,000 subscribers right now, but instead it's at about 90. It's much better to set a high goal and miss it by a little bit. So I'll miss it by not much. You know, it might take me an extra month or two to hit 100,000. But I could, you know, I hit that. And I would rather set that bigger goal and just miss it slightly, or just miss it, than set a small goal and hit it every single time. And you want to start thinking about that with your goals. So when you're setting your yearly goals, one rule I heard from Grant Cardone is 10x whatever goal you have. And at first, your mind is going to be like, this is impossible, it's not going to happen, but just do it. Just do it, because what's going to happen is you're going to have to start trying to figure out how to get there. You know, for me with SimplySoccer, it started with how am I going to get there? And I thought, what if I started uploading daily? And I started doing that. And I said, what if I make this video or that video? What if I make this, you know, really plan out this video? Whatever it was, it started making me think differently, which helped me get to the point where I am now. And here's actually the thing. There were points where I fluctuated throughout the year where I was not as consistent as I should have been. There were times when I go like a couple weeks without uploading. I guarantee you if I stayed as consistent consistent as I had planned on being at the beginning of the year, that I'd be way over 100,000 subscribers right now. I would. And that's not to say, that's not saying anything good or bad about myself. What I'm saying is, I, at the beginning of the year, did not think it was possible to even get close to 100,000, but I set the goal anyway, and started coming around thinking it was possible, and it was more than possible. Again, like if I had released a video every day or almost every single day for the rest of this year, or I'd followed some other strategy that I knew would have gotten me to that point, I would have hit it. And I can tell you, I'm not disappointed with how much this channel has grown, but it never would have if I never just set that goal of going for the bigger goal. So when you're setting your goals, make sure they're bigger. Make sure they're the kind of goals where if you spoke to someone and told them your goals, and I don't recommend you do this, but if you told someone your goal, they'd be like, you can't do that. If you set a goal and someone goes like, yeah, that's possible. Unless they're like a person who believes these kind of things, and it's like, unless you're asking Will Smith, if someone's saying, yeah, okay, I get that. You want goals that basically shatter someone's reality, that basically question their reality, to where they're like, well, no, you couldn't do that. That's how you want your goals to be, where you know you can do it, but other people, in a way, almost doubt you. Now, I'm not saying go ask people and have all these people doubt you, because that may discourage you. But what I am saying is, if people don't doubt you and they're not hating on you and are not and not thinking you're a little bit crazy with your goals, then you probably need to set them higher. Again, when you look back at my channel going from 10,000 to 100,000 in a year, it's not, and it took me a long time to get to 10,000. It's not realistic. But by setting that goal, my channel's grown so much just through doing that. So that's what you want to do with your goals. Now, last thing I'm going to leave you with is you're setting these goals, and set them for like every area. And I would set like a few main goals, at least like 5 main goals. Don't set too many. 5 like big goals that you want to get done by the end of the year. Don't set like 50. You can have smaller goals within those bigger goals, but you want like 5 main things. Don't bite off more than you can chew here. 5 main things. But another thing you want to set is an intention, which is a bit different than a goal. And this is something I've been following a little more recently, is setting intentions instead of always setting goals, because sometimes you don't know what's going to happen. Actually, all the time you don't know what's going to happen. Okay, so where was I? So you want to set an intention as well. And this is kind of like your why statement. Like, what are you doing and why are you doing it? What is your intention? Like, do you want to help a bunch of people? Do you want to get better at something? Whatever it is. For a lot of you, it may be, I want to become a professional footballer. I want to become, a much better player, a higher level player. And when you set that intention and you move in that direction, your goals may shift from time to time. Like, the last thing you want is a goal that's so rigid that it actually prevents you from growing, because maybe you're halfway through it and this other thing opens up and it could take you even further. Like, it can move you even closer to your intention and moving in that direction. A goal usually has an end point. Like, for example, like with mine, 100,000 subscribers, that's an end point to that goal. And then after I hit that, I have to set a new goal, right? If I want to keep moving forward. Where an intention, I suppose, can shift, but there's no real end point. It's kind of like the journey the whole time. Like an intention for example, SimplySoccer's intention is to help players improve their game and stand out on the pitch. Now, there's no real end goal in that intention. Every day I go to make the videos, I go to, make products or whatever it is, in alignment to that intention. Right? It's like my why. If I'm asked, why do I do SimplySoccer, or why do I do this, or why do I do that? And I would say, oh, well, I guess when you really boil it down, my intention with this is to help players become better, to teach them about ideas I think are really important, to expose them to things that I think will help them grow not only as players, but as people. That's my intention with it. And within that intention, I could have certain goals. So I could think, well, what are some goals that help me accomplish that intention, or help me continue moving in the direction of that intention? So I could be like, oh, I can try and hit 100,000 subscribers, or make a goal of that, because the more people watching my stuff, obviously the bigger impact I have. But you can see how that goal fits under that intention. Sorry guys, not sure where I was there, got interrupted. But that's what I mean. Set an intention, and then you have goals kind of that help you keep moving with that intention. So And that's why I like to look at it like intention first, then goals. Because goals can change, goals will be accomplished, goals will transform, they'll morph sometimes. I don't think you should always be changing your goals, go all the way through to you until you accomplish it. But, the whole point of your action taking and getting to that point, it shouldn't be for the goal itself. Because then you hit the goal, like you get the certain amount of money, or you get the certain amount of subscribers, you get to a certain team, and then it's like, now what? I put so much energy into getting to that goal. What was the point of the goal? Oh, that's right, I had this intention. My intention was this. My intention is this moving forward. And again, your intention can change as you grow and evolve. And again, all these things will change as you grow and evolve and you expand your awareness and all these things. But just think about not only having goals, but having that big intention, and that's why you have certain goals. Again, so for example, just to give you an example, a very clear example for Simply Soccer, my intention would be to help as many players as I can to stand out or to improve their game and stand out, to help them grow, to help them improve their game, to help expose them to certain ideas I think will help them within football and life. And then I have certain goals that help me fulfill that intention. Okay, so that's the example. Apply that to any area you think is relevant, and go from there. And I think that's I think it's better than just having the goals by themselves, having that why you even have the goals in the first place. All right, guys. So we've gone on for quite a bit now. I'm gonna leave it there. If you have any questions on any of this stuff, please. I know there's a lot more I could cover, and there's, this is an area, again, that I really think I could dive so much deeper into, but I don't want to leave you with like 2 hours of this. So if you have any questions on any of this, any questions about goal setting or intentions or anything else, put it down in the comments down below, and I will answer them. We're going to do hashtag goals as our hashtag. So if you have a question or a comment, or, you have something, or just you want to, help me acknowledge that you've listened all the way through. Put hashtag goals down there. Again, if you put that hashtag with your comment or question, I'm much more likely to respond. Even if you don't have a comment or question, put it down there so I can recognize who's listened all the way through and who has not. Just because I like to be able to recognize the people who are actually investing their time into learning this stuff. So once again, guys, thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed your holidays. If I don't see you or you don't watch a video, until after New Year's, enjoy the New Year's. We're getting into 2018. It's actually very exciting, and I can't wait to hear about, and hopefully about, your progress in 2018, and I hope that we can continue to grow together this next year. All right, guys, take care.